Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be part of this first ever vegan Sacramento VegFest. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Before I get started, I have a quick question. Does anybody know why the tomato took a prune to the movies? Because he couldn't find a date. Thank you for not throwing stuff at me. But really, before we get started, I do have a real question. How many of the people here in this room have a pet at home? Dog, cat, rabbit, goldfish? Oh, wow. Okay. We got an animal-loving group in here today. That doesn't surprise me. This is representative of the vast majority of Americans. Most of us have animal companions. More than half of Americans do, and many of us consider them to be family members. We buy them Christmas presents, we have birthday parties for them, we love them, and we treat them like members of our family. But what about animals raised for food? How do we feel about farm animals? Do we feel like this is an abomination and that we should never confine dogs and other animals who we tend to consider companions, but it's acceptable to treat chickens and other food animals like this? Well, we don't have to just wonder about that. There have been numerous studies conducted on this very issue, including one that was done, that was funded by the American Farm Bureau Federation, and it was conducted by Oklahoma State University. That's not necessarily the biggest bastion of animal activism happening there at Oklahoma State University. They did a telephone survey asking 1,000 Americans, do you agree with the following statement? It is important to me that animals on farms are well cared for. And of those people, 95% said that yes, it is important to them. I don't know who that other 5% of people is, but you don't want to be caught in a dark alley with them. And this really is the way that most of us feel. We want all animals to be well taken care of. But the truth is, in this day and age, there's a huge disparity between what people want, and that is the humane treatment of animals, and what animals are getting. This is a typical pig gestation crate. For those of you who aren't familiar with these, this is what is used to confine the vast majority of breeding pigs in the United States. Breeding pigs are those who are not directly in the supply chain, but who are breeding the babies who will end up in the food supply chain. These crates are veritable Iron Maidens measuring about 2 feet wide by 7 feet long. And the mother pigs are confined in these crates for the duration of their pregnancy, which lasts about 4 months. They're put into another crate to give birth, and that cycle repeats itself, pregnancy after pregnancy. And similarly, we can find egg-laying hens in these tiny crates that are about the size of a desk drawer. There are about 5 to 8 birds confined in these crates, and they have less space per bird than a single sheet of paper on which to live for their entire lives. And as you can imagine, they're deprived of everything that's natural and important to them. The ability to peck, to perch, to dust bath, to feel the sun on their backs. This is what animals are getting in our current factory farming system. But of course, we're also concerned about the environment. It's clear that animals are suffering, but there are severe impacts on our environments as well. This is a woman named Lita. Lita lives in the Central Valley of California, but she grew up in the Philippines. She met her husband Sam when he liberated her hometown from the Philippines during the war. They fell in love, they got married, and they wanted to pursue the American dream. So they ended up moving to California, to Lathrop, which is down in the Central Valley, and they pooled their money together with a local family, or a local group of families, and they bought a plot of land. They lived in peace, they raised some children, and there was a small egg farm down the street from their home. Eventually, it was purchased by a company called Oliveira Egg Ranch. And when you think about Oliveira Egg Ranch, perhaps you're envisioning a beautiful red barn, some rolling green hills, some chickens pecking out in the sunshine. This is Oliveira Egg Ranch. On this factory farm, they confined about 700,000 egg-laying hens. And they were confined in those cages like the ones that I just shared the pictures of. Of course, it's terrible for the animals, but imagine the devastation to Lita and her neighbors. Sometimes the fly infestations were so bad that they couldn't even open their windows. Sometimes the ammonia stench was so bad they couldn't open their windows or didn't want to. They didn't even want to go outside. It severely damaged their quality of life. And the Humane Society intervened and sued on their behalf because this was a nuisance, and we prevailed in court getting them fine settlements. And some people may have said, well, they won that case. But the reality is we are all losing, because this is the typical way that factory farms dispose of their waste. This is a traditional factory farm in North Carolina. That red cesspool you see there is a manure lagoon. I grew up in Virginia on the North Carolina border, and every fall, every August, September, so we would get hurricane, tropical storm warnings. When those things hit the area, oftentimes these manure lagoons overflow, going into local waterways, killing off fish, causing algal bloom, and other untold devastation to our environment. Yet that is a standard procedure for disposing or for storing waste on these factory farms. And many of you have probably driven down I-5 and seen these massive feedlots, but you probably smelled them 10 miles before you even see them. Imagine being there, living in that environment day in and day out. Imagine working on these farms, or being one of these animals having to breathe in those ammonia fumes every single day. And this is a typical broiler operation. Again, in Virginia, we had the Delmarva Peninsula, which housed massive chicken factory farms. These are broiler chickens, so those who are raised for meat. And we used to see stickers and billboards all over the area that said, "Save the Bay." And we'd go out and clean up the beaches, picking up trash and water bottles. But really the biggest polluters were these massive factory farms where the waste was flowing into that bay, which is one of our most delicate ecosystems on the East Coast. And of course, in California, we can't talk about the impacts of animal agriculture only on the environment without talking about the drought, because the reality is animal agribusiness, meat production is very resource intensive, requiring vast amounts of water to produce these products. That's one reason that the United Nations every year during World Water Day, which they organize, tell people if they're concerned about conserving resources and conserving water, then we should consume minimal meat. Replace meat with another source of proteins in your diet, they say, and if you can't, then cut your portions in half and replace it with other foods. So how do we narrow the gap? We recognize that there are some severe problems, but how do we begin to move away from a system in which animals raised for food are treated like parked cars with no feelings, no sentience, no needs, or no desires, to a more humane system, one in which we treat animals with respect and compassion? One way that we're doing that is we're working with big food companies, and we're helping them change their practices. We have successfully worked with more than 60 of the world's biggest food companies to phase out these gestation crates, battery cages, and veal crates from their food supply chains. And we've also worked to pass laws here in California and 8 other states. We've passed laws banning those gestation crates and battery cages. We've also worked in dozens of countries around the world to eliminate those very cruel practices. But one thing is for sure, and if we want to get rid of factory farming, we've got to eat less meat. So in the next hour while we're in the room together, 150 people will have died from heart disease, cancer, and stroke. That's about 2.5 people every single minute. And in the next hour, over 1 million animals will be slaughtered. That's 285 animals every second. 285 animals. 285 animals. It's really hard to wrap our minds around what that means. But I think what's even more staggering is that if we could reduce the number of animals that we're slaughtering, we're consuming, then we could reduce the other. We could reduce the risk, the incidences of chronic preventable disease. It's for sure that our dietary scales are imbalanced. We are currently eating too many animals, and we're not eating enough plants. Again, too many animals, and we're not eating enough vegetables. But I'm really excited to see that that balance is beginning to be tipped, and this is something that's supported by public health organizations like the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, which has supported programs like Meatless Monday and has said that There's a consistent positive association between meat consumption and obesity. And the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, which has done research on this, like the EPIC study, they looked at 300,000 plus men and women, and they concluded that a decrease in meat consumption could help with improving weight management. Kaiser Permanente, I know later this afternoon we have a physician from Kaiser. They have not only encouraged their physicians who are treating patients suffering from those chronic diseases, from heart disease, cancer, stroke, type 2 diabetes, to treat those patients with another serving of fruits and vegetables instead of pills or surgical procedures. They've also encouraged their patients to try for a more plant-based diet, saying that if you can't get to 100%, that's okay. Any movement toward eating more plants and fewer animal products can help with improving your health. The #1 killer in the United States of men and women is heart disease. The American Heart Association is working to end that, and they've said that researchers suggest that just by substituting some of the meat in our diets, we can help lower the risk of heart-related death. Eat more plants, eat less meat. It's that simple. And the American Institute for Cancer Research has similarly said that while the research is very conflicting on many issues, one thing is very clear. We all need to eat more plants and less meat. But it's not just Americans' health we're talking about. We're talking about global health issues and how are we going to feed an exploding global population. We're expected to reach 9 billion people by 2050. How are we going to do that? Well, Oxfam, which is a relief organization working on ensuring food security, has said that the reality is it takes massive amounts of land, water, fertilizer, oil, and other resources to produce meat, significantly more than it takes to produce other nutritious and delicious kinds of food. They're encouraging people to eat less meat. And so is the Sierra Club for the very environmental reasons that I mentioned. And they said that if all we had to do was reduce meat consumption by just 20%, it'd be like switching from a standard vehicle to a hybrid. 20% is not that much. It's roughly 1 day a week. So what if we could all land on one day that we decided to take a holiday from meat? Maybe you're already vegetarian, maybe you're vegan, but for many people, they're just dipping their toes in the water. What if we could agree on one day? Does anybody know of a movement where 1 day a week you might take a day off from meat? Raise your hand if you know the answer to this. All right. Yeah, I'm going to give it to you because you're in the front. Meatless Monday. You bet. And we do have some other Meatless Monday swag at our table over in the other room. So if you didn't get this, we do have a few other stickers and fun things. Meatless Monday. If you haven't heard about it, you're about to. But Meatless Monday has been around for a long time. In fact, it has its roots back to World War I. It was initiated by the US government. Americans were encouraged to go meat-free 1 day a week to support the troops abroad. It was brought back during World War II for the same reason. This time to fight the war on, World War II was for the same reason, and then in 2003, it was brought back to fight the war on preventable disease by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. And I have a quick video to share what it looks like in its current iteration, and I hope it works and that the sound plays. All right. Speaker on? What's up? Okay. The speakers aren't working.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. All right, we're going to skip over the video. Seems like the speakers are not working, but it's on our website, humanesociety.org. It's a very fun little 3-minute video. But you know, this is something that has gained traction with public figures supporting it, with entire city and county public health departments like the Florida Department of Health, which has taken out billboards and radio ads encouraging people to take a holiday from meat on Mondays. You think we should try it again? All right, you guys, you ready for this? Hold your breath. We did test this. There we go.
What exactly are Meatless Mondays, in a nutshell? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. 1 day a week, just after Sunday, and prior to Tuesday, to be exact, in which you eat meat-free meals. A fairly simple concept, right? But why should you partake in this weekly holiday of meat, if you will? Well, before we get to the reason, let's see who else supports the idea of kicking off each week, tossing chicken sandwiches, fish sticks, and hot dogs aside. Well, for one, Oprah's on board. And if she's doing it, your mom will be doing it. What more support do you need? So now you have an idea of who some of the champions of Meatless Monday are. Let's focus on how they're doing it. Well, in this day and age, it's actually really easy. So where do we start? If you like plants, you're in luck. Here's an idea. Take a meal and replace the meat with, yes, vegetables. Good job. However, if you're a meat and potatoes, minus the potatoes kind of guy or gal, there are plenty of vegetarian meats out there. Here are just a few. But maybe you like to eat out if you have anything in common with most people. Not a problem. Pretty much every restaurant has vegetarian meals. Plus, give ethnic restaurants a shot. Chinese, Thai, Middle Eastern, Indian, Mexican restaurants always have vegetarian dishes to choose from. So we've covered the who, what, how, now most importantly, onto the why. Number one, the environment. You know, the air, water, soil, well, it's in trouble. Global warming, greenhouse gases, all that stuff. What's one of the largest contributors at play? According to the United Nations, animal agriculture. This group said that if every American replaced chicken with other non-meat stuff, one meal, once a week, it'd be like taking 500,000 cars off the roads. That's a lot. One of like a few thousand DeLoreans though, maybe. Number two, animals. If all Americans did Meatless Monday, it'd prevent 1.4 billion animals from being factory farmed. That's a good thing, because this is what that looks like. Not a pretty sight. Number three, your health. Eating more meat-free meals can help prevent heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Want more evidence? Ask former President Clinton.
I went on essentially a plant-based diet. 82% of the people who've done that, their arterial blockage cleans up, and I've lost 24 pounds. I didn't think this would happen.
Had you all heard that about President Clinton? Yeah, like this is a guy who used to love meat so much that he would stop while he was out on a jog for a cheeseburger, right? And now he's eating more plant-based foods, mostly vegan. By the way, can you guys give a round of applause to our audio technicians for making that happen? Thank you guys. So I mentioned we're seeing this gain in popularity with billboards, radio ads. Kaiser's not just talking to its physicians and patients, but its insurance subscribers as well. They did a newsletter encouraging people to take a Meatless Monday challenge and saying that it's grown into a phenomenon, and a phenomenon indeed it has become, with all kinds of people supporting this. From Paul McCartney, who has his own Meat-Free Monday campaign. He even has a song called Meat-Free Mondays, which I'm not going to sing for you, but I encourage you to check out the video and share it on a Meatless Monday. Oprah Winfrey has done Meatless Monday at Harpo Studios. And of course, we've all heard about Beyonce not only going vegan, but starting her own vegan meal delivery service. So this has definitely hit the mainstream. Entire hospitals are going meatless on Mondays, universities across the country, and even city school districts in some of the nation's biggest cities are going meat-free on Mondays. And Detroit Public Schools learned that not only could they serve kids healthy food, get their week off to a good start, but they could also save some money. So they're doing 2 meat-free days every week. LA Unified, which is the nation's second largest school district, is participating. But it's not just urban school districts in California, maybe places that are expected. We're talking about deep in the heart of Texas. Even Houston, Texas schools are meat-free on Mondays. So of course, big food companies have seen this growing momentum. Companies like Campbell's Soup, which is perhaps best known for its chicken noodle soup, they're now using Meatless Monday to promote their recipes. And even Burger King, which is the king of burgers, right? They have a veggie burger available at all of their locations across the country, and they use Meatless Monday as a way to get the word out about that product. And I don't know how you feel about Walmart, but you know, they see this as a popular program. So I'm really excited to see that they have recipes on their website promoting Meatless Monday for all kinds of people to go and check out. Seeing this momentum, NPR has said that it's not just vegans and vegetarians, but even omnivores and carnivores are putting more fake meat on their plates. USA Today has agreed, saying that meatless meals are gaining in popularity for budget and environmental reasons, and health reasons, of course. And Fox News on the far right have talked about the 10 benefits of eating less meat. If you hold stocks in meat companies, well, the NASDAQ has said that they're cautioning against that. Meat consumption, they say, has been steadily declining, which could play out into a huge profit potential. And you should think twice about holding long positions in meat industry stocks or exchange-traded securities. So go divest after this. Is this insider trading? The Wall Street Journal, seeing again this momentum, has said that anchoring a plate with a massive hunk of animal protein is so last century. Get with the picture, people. Wendy's is now testing out a black bean burger at locations in South Carolina, Utah, and Ohio, where it's headquartered. So if you know anybody there or you're looking for a reason to go to one of those places, go check out their Wendy's black bean burger and give them some love. White Castle rolled out a veggie slider at all of its locations across the U.S. last year for the low price of 99 cents. You can't beat that. And Chipotle is uniting carnivores and vegan with its tofu sofritas, which I definitely recommend. Now, we all know Taco Bell has long had vegetarian options, but now they are touting that they have the first ever vegetarian certified menu. And Subway has more locations around the globe than even McDonald's. And of course, we've all known we could go there and get a veggie sub, but now they're offering things like black bean patties and a Malibu Garden patty at select locations. So you're all ready to join the Meatless Monday movement if you're not already, right? Yeah, everybody in the room's on board? Well, you might be thinking this is going to be really hard. How do I get started? But that's probably what you were thinking when you went from MySpace to Facebook, right? Or when you were thinking about not driving somewhere, leaving the car on a cold night and going and getting your video. You're like, can I really stream videos from home or order them online? You figured that out, right? Or what about when you thought about giving up your flip phone or your candy bar phone and switch to an iPhone? Now you can't live without it, right? Well, I can tell you that it's as easy as swapping out a hamburger with a veggie burger or a chicken nugget with a chicken-free nugget. It's that simple. But maybe you want something a little healthier. You have the cardiologist coming in later. He's going to talk to you about not eating so much processed food, perhaps. Well, there are great things out there like black bean and rice burgers that are very popular, a hearty pasta dish, a delicious chili. This is a protein-packed chili that's on our website, and I'm getting hungry because I haven't had lunch yet, so I hope I'm making you all hungry too, so you can go support our vendors. Or there are things like a Tuscan white bean pizza. You could also use Monday as a day to experiment with some new foods, trying a Chinese 5-spice tofu perhaps. And again, we have all of these great recipes on our website, humanesociety.org/recipes, where you can go and find them on the site or even sign up to get a free one delivered to your inbox on Friday, so you have the weekend to shop and prepare for your Meatless Monday. We also have at our table, and I have a few here and we'll have them outside, this handy guide to meat-free meals with more information as well as recipes. So, you know, we got here because we talked about people caring about animals and perhaps sometimes taking this a little bit too far, right? But it's only because we love them so much, because we have this very strong bond with animals. And we're taught from the time that we're very little kids that the mark of a humane person is someone who is kind to animals. But in our society, sometimes that bond gets broken. And it's being broken right now by these factory farms. But I'm excited to see that there's a lot of momentum happening. We went from raising and slaughtering about 100 million animals in 1950 to about 9.5 billion animals in 2007. However, within the last 8 years, we saw that number fall off a cliff. We're now raising about 400 million fewer animals than we did just a few years ago, which is promising. And for those 400 million animals, which may not seem like a lot, it means everything to them, to animals like her who will no longer be suffering. And all we have to do to help ease that suffering is to choose the right climate for a saner diet, which is now. And it's as easy as swapping out that chicken sandwich for a chicken-free sandwich. We can do so much to help and give these animals a much better life. I'm going to close with a quote that was shared by a food service director who I've worked a lot with. He's up in Novato Unified School District, and he's doing Meatless Monday. He took beef off the menu years ago because he said that he'd been through 8 recalls. The animal welfare issues were terrible, and if he wouldn't buy that meat and serve it to his kids at home, he wasn't going to serve it to the kids at school. And here's what he shared with us. It's from Maya Angelou, and she says, "Do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better." And I leave that with all of you today. You know better, so let's work to do better. Thank you all very much.
Did everybody learn something today? We have time for one question if you want.
Sure, yeah, hi.
Is there any bank or credit union in the United States where people who care about animals can move their money that are completely divested from proceeds and not giving loans or anything?
That's a good question, and I wish I had a good answer for you. I don't know of any, but I do know that there are now more investment firms that are trying to do socially responsible investing. So, and I actually have contact information for a woman who is a vegan SRI financial consultant who I could connect you with. No, she's with Quinoa Capital. Yeah, okay. Brenda Morris, yeah. I guess there's just one of them. Right? Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll work on that. Thank you. And I guess we might have time for one more question if anybody has one.
And I've heard also about the Green Mondays movement.
Right.
And I'm just wondering what you've experienced with any backlash to people feeling like the meat is being taken away from them for one day, and how you can turn that around or respond to it when they hear of this, of Meatless Mondays.
Sure. Yeah, great point. So she asked about Green Mondays, which is a program that came out of Hong Kong, and it's had a lot of success there. I met with the director of that program, and he said that Meatless Monday wouldn't work in Hong Kong because it would translate to Foodless Monday. So they chose Meatless because it makes sense for environmental reasons as well. And honestly, I don't care what you call it. Just take a holiday from meat one day or more a week. So we have developed alternative terminology like a meat-free Friday, which might work better for people who are Catholic and they want to go meat-free for Friday all year long, or perhaps a lean and green day. But we've developed all sorts of different programs to meet that end. And we see this as becoming extremely popular. I was just talking with another vendor. We have schools across the country, all the way down in Texas on the border, in San Diego on the border, in rural areas of the country. Kansas City, Missouri public schools are meat-free on Monday, and so I think it has become mainstream. In my work, I work with food service providers at schools, hospitals, et cetera, across the country. And just in December of this year, there was an article in Food Service Director magazine, which is the trade industry publication to the food management industry, and they said that their #1 story in 2015 is that vegan is mainstream. So we're not even just talking about Meatless Monday, but that the terminology vegan in that industry has now become mainstream. It's not just for the tree huggers that they used to think that they were providing for. It's for everybody who wants to eat healthier sometimes or all the time. Any final questions? All right, well, I'm going to be out there at the table.